This unlocks his unlimited devotion. If you are with a man that you have a situation with right now that you're wondering how to make him magnetize to you, what makes a man feel that you're the woman he should be with, that he can be with, he should be with, because you're just something so special to him, so precious, like a diamond, that he would never want to lose it down the crack. So, this is what we're going to talk about today. And I'm excited because I have my wife with me again. And we're going to be diving into this powerful principle that we have to share with you that can completely transform your life, your relationships with men and other people in your life as well. So, hi, I'm Brody Boyd. And together with my wife, Antia, we've been helping thousands of successful women all over the world to get a loving, long-term, committed relationship with the man they want fast. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And so the principle we're talking about today is what you resist persists. And we're going to go deeper into exactly how this shows up in your relationships with men. So I'm going to actually let my lovely wife start us off with explaining this powerful principle to you.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of times women come to me and say, "Gosh, I'm not that selfish like my sister is. I'm not as arrogant as my coworker is, or I'm certainly not a narcissist like my ex-husband is," and so on. So, in other words, they're expressing to me what they judge, right? We all have judgments inside of ourselves, and however, whatever you judge resists, right? Because whatever you persists, which means what you resist persists. So in you judging it, you're naturally resisting it. You're pushing it away. You're disowning it. You're like, that's not mine. I would never do such a thing. I would never be like that. And you fail to acknowledge where you very much actually are capable of doing that, and where you've already done it, obviously, right? And you actually judged yourself for it. So, for example, maybe you were like really angry, maybe at your kids, maybe at your spouse, maybe at a friend, a mother, a coworker, whatever. And then afterwards, you actually don't feel, not integrated. You don't feel connected. You don't feel trusting. You don't feel peace. But instead, you feel embarrassment. You beat yourself up. You feel maybe even ashamed. You're like, gosh, I know so much better. I'm so mature. And I just acted totally immature. Right. And then you apologize. And that creates like this whole shame cycle. Now, that actually leads to you becoming extremely unattractive. You see, being attractive has nothing to do with your looks, or very, 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 very little to do with your looks, but it has everything to do with your congruency and your belief in yourself, in owning all the different parts that you have inside of yourself. So, for example, let's say the angry part, or the arrogant part, or the selfish part, or the fill in the blank, self-righteous part, judgmental part. I mean, I could just go on and on and on and on. And maybe Brody can fill us in here. How attractive is that to a man? If, let's say, a man would point out, "Wow, I mean, you're a little judgmental." If a woman were to actually say, "I actually am," deep breath, feeling at peace, because it's true. I have this part inside of me that, let's say, feels judgmental. Your thoughts, Schnucky?
Yeah. So basically, I don't know why it's not letting me bring myself on here. This is weird. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go. So a bit of a delay. Yeah. So basically, when a man is with you and he feels that there is some blockage, that is denying your feminine energy. And typically, what happens when you are in this mode that Antia is talking about, where you are judging yourself, you're judging him, you are creating a energetic block that causes him to disconnect from your feminine energy. He can't feel it. It's like trying to look through a glass window that has shutters on it over it. You can't see through the window very well. Maybe some of the shutters are open, but then most of it is closed. It's spotty. So he can't really feel you. He can't see you properly because you are stuck in a mode where you are resisting parts inside of yourself that you judge as being weak or as being too much or as being maybe too feminine or too masculine. And so that judgment creates this block where you are unconsciously suppressing these parts that are then coming out in different ways. You're having to put on a mask, so to speak. You're having to put on a costume to try to be something that essentially you're not. You have those parts inside of you. We all do. We have parts that we judge. We have parts that are outgoing. We have parts that are introverted. We have parts that are arrogant. We have parts that are shy and embarrassed. So every one of these parts that you are suppressing, that you're judging inside of yourself and saying, no, I can never let him see that part inside of me. I can never let him feel that because he's going to reject it because I reject it. I don't like that part inside of me. Well, now there's a block. Now there's something getting in the way from him being able to actually feel you, which is what a man ultimately wants, is to feel you as an authentic feminine being, which means you're not perfect. You have things about you that are unique, that are what you might call flaws, that actually makes you have an emotional imprint on his heart, like a thumbprint that wouldn't be there if you were just this bland, perfect, Miss Too Cool for School. Everything's put together. I don't have any judgments of myself. I don't have any insecurities. And this is all self-judgment, but what it'll also come out in the form of is you judging other people, you judging him, you judging other women, other men as a whole, women as a whole, your parents, people in your life that you're close to. You'll be judging them and they will start to feel that as well. Not only would he feel blocked from your energy, but he'll start to feel that he's being judged in some way. He's being criticized or approached from the point of view that you need to change him, that he's broken. There's something not good enough with how he is, so he needs to be doing better. And when a man feels that he's not fully accepted by you, that also feels disrespectful to him on an energetic level that causes him to start pulling away. Do you have any other thoughts on that, Snuggie?
Yeah, so it's kind of like as if you have a withhold. So if you judge something inside of yourself, let's say you're on a date or maybe if your husband or whoever, right? And he can just feel like there's just something unspoken. It's something I'm not sure, right? There's something I can't trust. I don't know what it is, but I should be hesitant with this one. I should protect myself. There's something else there. And you, in a way, send mixed signals, right? Because you're sending one signals with like what you're saying, like, I'm this wonderful person, I would never do such a thing. And of course, you actually start to also virtual signal, right? Because you're like, gosh, I would never be that abusive. But like, you have that part inside of you. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't be outright like physically abusive, but like if this part inside of you, and then you start to like virtual signal, it just feels like a little like, it feels almost like a little, you know what I mean? Like a little, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just really sort of like, like tread lightly with this person, right? And then the other piece is it totally takes away from your radiance, right? Because if I have to like suppress something, well, guess what? Brene Brown says, right, there is no selective dimming of emotions. So I can't say, oh, I judge this anger inside of me because my dad was a rage monster, or I judge this selfish part inside of me because my mom was a narcissist or had narcissistic traits, right? Because oftentimes we don't know unless they're actually clinically diagnosed. So you suppress, and that actually takes away from the expression, right? From the allowing the fullness of life, the life force energy, your light, your spontaneity, your radiance, your femininity to come through you, because you have to like always like live sort of under this like ceiling, this atmosphere of like, I can only go so far because otherwise I'm going to go into this like abrasive thing. We don't want to do that. I don't want to go into this like shallow thing. I don't want to go to this like arrogant thing. And so then the man is like, I kind of see you, but then I don't see you. So I'm not really sure who you are.
Yeah. And I was curious if we can start to go into giving these women a specific example of what we're talking about here. Maybe from one of your clients, maybe from yourself. What's a specific example where a woman that has done this, has had a judgment of some kind what that was specifically, and then how that show up in her love life and her relationship.
Yeah, I mean, so one example from me is that I could be manipulative because when you have an anxious attachment style, you tend to want to control your environment. Why is that? Well, because if you don't control it, you don't get what you want, right? Because you didn't get what you want, and then you created a strategy, which in this particular case is being manipulative and controlling, right? And by the way, just you acknowledging that right now is going to give some power back to you. It's going to bring respect. It's going to bring admiration. It's going to bring trust and peace back to you, right? So Brody and I, we must have been like dating. Maybe we were newly married. I don't remember exactly. But I was really annoyed at him because he left some dishes in the sink, something to that extent, maybe not exactly that. But and so then I said, okay, I mean, I know how I can guilt trip him and make him feel bad, right? Because I know exactly what buttons to push because we, of course, know our partner. But then I said, wait a minute, what I think, what I say, what I do needs to be in alignment in order for me to be my queen integrity and have the authenticity and the trusting relationship that I created. I wanted it back in 2008. I already created that. That's what I wanted with a man, was a trusting and authentic relationship with my man. And so I said, well, then I guess I have to tell him, right? And so I had to call myself out. I said, a part of me wanted to manipulate you. So I said it. Right? And then Brody heard that. And then Brody, what did you respond?
Yeah, so we've shared this story a couple times, but when she said, "A part of me wants to manipulate you right now," I thought that was really interesting because for me, I I've done a lot of personal growth. I've studied a lot of things, relationships and self-improvement and psychology. So for me to hear a woman say something like that, that she has a self-awareness to know that a part of her is wanting to manipulate me. And not only that, that she's aware that a part of her wanted to make me feel guilty or whatever it was at the time. It was probably something more than dishes, by the way. It was probably because you felt I wasn't giving you enough attention, or I was distracted, or I had said or done something you didn't like. But yeah, it could have been something smaller like that. But the fact that she had awareness about it and then was able to communicate that to me, to let me know, to be vulnerable, which we talk often about, to share her heart and let me have a peek inside what's going on for her, that was really impressive. It was powerful. And so I became a lot closer to her in that moment because I realized, wow, this is a woman I can trust. I also feel this masculine feminine dynamic where she's being open and vulnerable with me, and her feminine being authentic. And I want more of that. And I want to also explore it. So I asked her, like, well, tell me more. What's going on? Why did you want to manipulate me? And we had a conversation about it. And it was really interesting. But the biggest thing that it did for me is it built trust. Because again, in that moment, most women, when they're feeling that way, like they're feeling unhappy about something, you want to make your man feel guilty, or you want to start an argument about the dishes, or you want to bring some topic up from the past that you're upset about. But instead of doing that, you're aware of what's going on, that you have this part inside of you, and you're able to then be more respectful with it, be more vulnerable and authentic with it, with your man in the right way, which is what we teach with magnetic feminine communication. How do you have these conversations with a man that gives him that glimpse inside, and that he likes it, he wants more of it, rather than being pushed away with what happens in most situations where a woman's arguing, she says something nasty or disrespectful, the man closes up, he gets defensive, he starts to push back, and then likely starts pulling away, either subtly or physically in a big way, and even through a breakup. So that's not the best route to go down, because it's not bringing him closer. It's not letting him help you by actually asking for what you need, or just putting it out there and letting him step up and decide what to do next, such as, look what I did, asking her more questions, digging deeper. And we probably also had a conversation about how I could help her with that. So yeah, it was really great. And so curious if you have any other thoughts or feelings on what I mentioned with that, Snuggie, or if you want to bring in another example, maybe you've seen from a client, or a typical type of situation with a client, and how this shows up in her relationships or her dating.
Yeah. So what I didn't address was what I had to overcome, because the dialogue internally goes something like this: don't share that with him because he won't trust you. He will actually now know your secret, he'll know your superpower. So now you don't have anything else in your back pocket to get what you want. And so, of course, that voice came up inside of me. And that's why it's so important to have like almost like a mission statement or an intention or a vision, what you want the atmosphere of your relationship to be like, right? So I had like an extreme commitment to have that authenticity and transparency. The reason why I had that is because I wanted the deeply connected, associated, fulfilling relationship, right? Not just like, you're married and, you kind of live next to each other and feel like kind of, lukewarm with each other. And it's kind of not here, not there, right? And you just kind of go through life. I didn't want that. I want the whole enchilada. Another example that was not romantic is, a lot of my clients are afraid to be called arrogant. And by the way, this usually comes from our childhood wounds. So we get one message that's actually conditioning us in a not positive way from our parent, from our dad, and one from the mom, right? And of course, if you just grew up with one, then you just get one. And you got one indirectly by the other parent not being there, right? But so from my dad, it was, who do you think you are, right? So the worst thing that I could be called is something like arrogant. So then, of course, that happened. I was on stage. I got coached by another mentor, and we would talk about power, trusting your power, power in and of itself. What do you do with a lot of influence? How do you make sure to channel it right? All these things, right? You're using it for good. You're using it for God's glory and all that stuff. And then she told me in front of, like, I don't know, 500 women or something like that, you're so arrogant. And it was so great because I'm like, awesome, here's my moment. After I got, of course, a moment of shock trigger. I mean, it would be like inauthentic on me to say, oh, no problem. I rose above it. The second she said it to me, of course, it was a trigger. But we teach you always like how to turn your trigger into your treasure. And so I had another friend with me, and we had done a lot of work how to transform a trigger into pleasure. And so what we did was we actually did a sensual dance, of course, fully clothed, all the things, right? But just like, I'm so arrogant. So we immediately created a new neuronal pathway, a new connection, a new meta program to arrogance, right? So it's like, I'm arrogant, I'm so arrogant. So I was
Ooh la
actually,
la.
ooh la la, right? So it kind of turned like it's like a turn on. And, so I did that with her, like in a corner, right? And I love that because she was entrenched in the work, and so did I. And so we kind of doing it together. And it just was so amazing. I mean, like other women were like, what are those women doing over there? Wow. It's like, I want some of that. And so that's another way how you can actually reprogram literally the mind bridges that you have inside of your brain, what something means, right? Because we're meaning making machines. So I created this like, oh my gosh, this is like my next access point to pleasure. So that would be one example how you can rewrite your story to the very thing. Obviously, this was like programmed by my dad inside of your nervous system.
Yeah, I love that. So, what I would recommend for you listening right now is to start to look into what are some of the judgments you have towards yourself, first and foremost, things that may be lingering from childhood. Are you judging yourself as being too much, unlovable, or ugly, or fat, or too old, or I'm too bitchy, or I'm too much of a people pleaser, or I am, did I say too much already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Um,
not enough.
or not enough. Yes. So look at what these judgments might be for you, what resonated with that, and look at where you're resisting this judgment. Just the fact that you would have a judgment like this means you're likely resisting it as well. You're likely pushing that away and saying, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be not enough. I don't want to be too bitchy, too nice, too masculine, too feminine, too arrogant to whatever. And now it's to release that judgment and detach from it, which is a feminine practice as well, because the masculine is about making things happen and having an outcome. The feminine is about releasing that. And so if you're to really be able to release that, you have to let it go. And not only to be able to let it go, an often very powerful principle for that is to embrace it. So actually embrace what Antia is sharing here. That will be the next step, is embrace that judgment and say, okay, so what? I'm not enough. That's okay. That's amazing. It's like, what if it was amazing? What if it was amazing to be not enough, or to be too arrogant, or to be too masculine, too feminine, too nice, too ugly, too old, too young, whatever it might be? What if you embrace it? What if that's actually a great thing? The fact that you can then start from nothing. Well, okay, if I'm not enough, that means I have a lot of possibility. It's like I'm an empty bucket. I'm an empty container. And now I can fill it up with amazingness. I can, if I'm too nice, and that's just who I am, I'm a nice person. Well, what are the benefits of that? What are the ways I can utilize that to actually bring people closer to me? I could weave it in with other things too. I don't always have to be nice, but I can still use that part of me that's kind, that's gentle, and take that grace and combine it with more assertiveness, for example, more confidence. And so you start to look at how you can, like what Anchi said, turn that trigger into a treasure, transmute it, turn it, as in another book I read, turn the turn the poop into sugar. So you can actually turn it into something you can use for your benefit. So embracing it and making love to it. And now what happens is you lose that resistance, right? You lose the, I'm pushing against that. I don't want to be like that. I can't be like, and you're usually also, by the way, that's the other thing. So once you've embraced it, you can take this to the next level and also start, like some women listening right now, you might say, well, I don't really have any strong judgments towards myself. Well, that's great. But then to look at the mirror, if you can't see yourself through your own, like there's a saying, you can't see your nose, you can't see your own nose. So maybe you have to look into a mirror. And what is the mirror in relationships? The mirror is other people. So then to look at your immediate circle and to look at the society at large and see, what judgments do you have of other people? Especially, what judgments do you have of other women? Whether they're celebrities, whether they're women that you're close to, girlfriends, family. What are some of the top judgments? You might think of a few right now. Maybe your close girlfriend, or some people that are in your workplace, or that you go to school with, or wherever you're around other people. What are some judgments you have? Oh, she's too slutty, or she's too preppy, or she's too skinny, or she's too nice, or too masculine, too controlling, too bitchy, whatever those judgments might be. And now we turn the mirror back to yourself. Okay, so you judge her as being too bitchy. Where are you judging yourself as that? Because likely, if you have any judgment towards someone else, that is some judgment you have towards a part of yourself, at least. It's a part of you as well that you're repressing. And so then we look at, and we do the same process that we just recommended, embracing that judgment, embracing that resistance. So it turns into persistence. It turns into a joy, a treasure, a sugar, because you're no longer pushing against it. Now you can integrate that part and become whole. Do you have any other thoughts or feelings on that, Shungi?
Yeah, so you spotted, you got it. I think it's like a really good way of seeing it. And why is it important? One thing I see with my women is the pendulum swing. So, what does that mean? So, visualize yourself, let's say, going on a date. And you say, you know what? Like, I don't want to be perceived as, let's say, selfish. Maybe you had a narcissistic parent or something like that. Or maybe you were married to a narcissist. So in any way, shape, or form, you're like, I want to be I want to be considerate. I want to be selfless. I'm Christian, right? It's about serving, whatever, right? And so, but then what happens is, so let's say, you don't agree with something. Let's have a conversation. And, but then this part of is like saying, oh, wait, but I can't, you know what I mean? I need to be humble, right? So I can't, you know what I mean? So I need to give the other person the benefit of the doubt. And then when you swing that direction towards confidence or towards trusting yourself, then immediately you remember, oh, wow, that was selfish of me. Like I should know. I did, so you can you'll end up in sort of this sort of people pleaser corner or trap, because as long as you have judgments, right? The judgments will always swing you back on the pendulum swing towards that people pleaser trap. And you won't be able to get out of it. And on top of that, you are much more likely to become a narcissist magnet, right? A man who actually gaslights you. So it doesn't have to be narcissist, but like anyone who's like manipulative traits, codependent traits, wants you to do all the work, guilt tripping, right? You have this opening for them because they know you judged this about you. So all they have to do is guilt trip you, and then they manipulate you, they basically own you. And that's what I always say to my women is all the aspects that you don't own inside of yourself, like selfish or maybe even ignorant. Maybe you have worked so hard to get a PhD. Maybe you have 2 PhDs. Maybe even you went to 3 Harvards, whatever it is. Just kidding. But you know what I mean? But it's about you feel like, oh, I will never be considered ignorant. But that's what somebody can use to manipulate you because you totally have a trigger towards it. So that person has total power over you. So that's also how you become a narcissist repellent as well, is actually by owning, yeah, I can be selfish, or yeah, I can be ignorant. I don't have all the answers. Or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. Like, yes, I can be mean. Yes, I can be inconsiderate. Yes, I can be a bully. And so on.
Jesus said, judge not, lest ye be judged. And again, it's that mirror effect, right? You're judging, but then you're actually judging yourself. You're judging, and then you're being judged as well by yourself. That's the same process. That's the mirror effect. And I believe that's what he really meant by that. And it's not necessarily about the behavior also, because yes, there are bad behaviors. You may do bad behaviors. Other people may do bad behaviors. That's important to be acknowledged when you do screw up, quote unquote, when you made a mistake, when you said something you knew you shouldn't have said, or did something you knew you shouldn't have done. You want to own that. You want to take that on and take some responsibility and look at, how can I become better? That's part of the growth process. That's part of being discipled and ministered to, and to also let other people coach you as well, and let other people help you and be that reflection and be that support, like what we're doing for you here and in our coaching programs. But then to look at the danger, the risk is when it becomes a universal belief and you say, oh, that person is this, that person is that. So you start to separate the action from the identity of that person, and you do it with yourself as well, where you say, oh, I made a mistake, but then that's okay. You made a mistake. You acknowledge that, but then be careful when you go into the universal belief or the judgment, the universal judgment of, oh, that means I'm a bad person, or that means I am what Antia was saying, arrogant or selfish or weak, whatever that global judgment might be, ugly, etc. So you want to be very careful of those global judgments. And the process that we're helping you with here is just to start getting aware of this first and foremost, to start to notice when, especially with your self-talk, you're saying any of these thoughts to yourself, any of these judgments to yourself about yourself or about others, to catch that process, and then to get support with it from yourself and others. How do I shift that? How do I let that go? How do I embrace that to be free and to have the life I ultimately want, and to be a whole embodied woman that a man can then feel that you are perfectly imperfect. He can feel all the parts inside of you, so to speak, so that you can be together fully. And the other thing that I want to mention here is, I just had it. It was, you're accepting all the parts inside of yourself. It'll probably come back to me at some point, but that's basically what we wanted to bring to you today. And we're going to answer some questions. Before we get into the questions, go ahead and post your question now here that you have. I know I see already a lot coming in. If you haven't taken our free quiz yet, you'd like to take this to the next level as well and learn the principles of magnetic feminine polarity, magnetic feminine communication, and get our customized, personalized support with us, make sure you take our free quiz by going to magnetizeyourman.com or clicking the link in the description or comments or in our bio to get that as well. So we have some comments coming in. I'm going to bring those on here. So Uh, Leslie said she's an anxious attachment and struggles with this as well. Yes, it's a big one. She said she's afraid of being too much.
Oh,
And
we have like whole two batch parties, Leslie. So again, it's all about like how big can you be, how bold can you be, how overboard can you be. So again, it's like really leaning in, right? No more like this, just like, oh, let me dress a little bit down, or let me say a little bit less, or let me, you know what I mean? But it's the opposite. You know what I mean? Like how much can you be? You know what I mean? Imagine that. That's what's going to heal your nervous system. And by the way, that's also naturally regulates the anxiety inside of you. But anyways,
and what happens when you're authentically connected to your feminine core? That's really what a man wants. He wants to feel all of you. Now, the problem is what too much ends up being is actually what we're talking about. It's the judgments, it's the resistance. It is you trying to control him and manipulate him because you don't feel good enough deep down. It's not actually who you are authentically. When you were born as a young girl, you probably believed you were fine the way you were. You weren't even thinking about being too much or not enough at the very beginning when you were first born. That was all put onto you through beliefs that were instilled, things that happened, trauma, abuse, etc., potentially. And so that was all adopted. But at your core, it's like the rainbow. It's all these different parts inside of you. It's all the different aspects of who you are that a man wants. A man wants that experience of you. So that's very important to realize that that's what your feminine energy is. It's multifaceted. It is a variety. It's like the depth of the Mona Lisa. When you're looking at the Mona Lisa and you see this depth of field, that's really what a man wants to experience from you as well, which is why that painting is so fascinating to us. And the in some ways the ambiguity of it, that draws a man in because it is mysterious. Your feminine energy is naturally mysterious, and he can spend his whole life trying to figure out that exactly and unraveling the mystery that is you. But that's a good thing, and that keeps it interesting. It keeps it exciting, and you don't even have to do anything to do that. That's naturally who you are when you are connected to your feminine core, and it's not too much. It's actually what he wants. And then also what we teach you with magnetic feminine communication is how to bring out all of that, who you are, all those parts of who you are, and share it in a way that a man actually receives it, that he doesn't feel judged himself, that he doesn't feel like you're trying to control him or trying to manipulate him or mother him, that he actually feels respected and appreciated and trusted with that gift that is your heart, rather than it's being put onto him or slammed on his head like a sledgehammer. It's how it's expressed to him and how it's let out is a big part of how he will receive it as well, which is what we help you with in a big part. And Leslie also said, thank you. I'm part of your program and I enjoy every bit of it. Awesome, Leslie. And so great you're able to tune in here as well. And great that you're part of our community. Really grateful to have you in there. And let's see here if there's any other questions. Okay, so Christian Queen said, welcome. How do I interact with a guy who is an introvert / shy? I heard at church that he was in a relationship with a woman, but she broke up with him. I am guessing that he is guarded. Thank you so much. Do you want to respond to that, Schnucky?
I mean, of course, the first question I have is I always tell my women, how do you know that he's introverted and shy? You know, so we just like make an observation and then we say immediately, oh, this man is this. You know, my women, I do this like a lot. It's a lot of like already judging, and not even like in a negative way, but just like deciding who this man is, right? And we're doing this a lot when we're running the anxious attachment style because we're very other focused. And so first I would be like, and why does it matter? You know what I mean? I mean, Brody was more on the introverted-ish side. No, I would call him more ambivert. There's another word for that. I think an introverted,
I
extrovert,
think
or
it's an
something.
omnivert is another one.
Omnivert, yes. And so
Ambivert, I think.
I don't think it really matters because it's not about that you have to change your strategy, because that's what we women like to do when we're like in leadership and accomplished. Like, okay, so what strategy can I do here? What category does he fall into? What kind of personality pattern is he? You know? And you said, I heard at church that he was in a relationship with a woman. Now you're guessing, you know, so guessing that he's guarded, right? We don't know anything, right? We don't know how long they were together. We don't know how long he was already distancing himself from this
Yeah, he
woman.
may be super happy and excited to get out of that relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't know.
exactly. So, in terms of like how to interact with a guy, well, for one, uh, authentic. First of all, actually becoming connected to how you're feeling. How are you feeling about this man? Are you feeling curious? Hopefully, you're feeling curious and not like you're already deciding who this person is and that you already think that is the best thing since sliced bread. But he actually is saying, huh, interesting. Let's see what's happening next Sunday when I see him at church again, right? Just kind of like, just kind of see what's happening, just kind of see how he shows up.
Yeah, what did you call that? Curious attraction versus
Curious chemistry versus crazy chemistry. That's what you called
yeah,
it.
yeah, curious chemistry.
Versus crazy one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I would say is you want to be careful of thinking or feeling too much about what's going on for him, because that's masculine energy. When you are wondering and guessing and thinking about, oh, he must be feeling this way, or he must be more introverted, or he must be guarded, um, that's subtly moving into masculine energy, because what it ends up being is you trying to manage him in some way. Because then what it is, oh, he's guarded. So that means I need to be what he needs to interact with me. I need to cater to him. I need to mesh now myself and put on a performance to be who he needs me to be in this moment, which is actually a mothering energy. It's treating him like a child. Like a child is upset. So then the parent says, oh, since he's upset, I need to give him a hug, or I need to go get him a lollipop. Well, that's you catering to him. That's you meeting his needs, taking care of him, providing for him. Now you're the full on masculine energy, and he's the feminine receiving from you. He's being catered to by you. And that's why women who are people pleasing and who are more anxious end up actually becoming some of the most masculine women that there is, because they're constantly bending themselves into a pretzel to meet the man's needs, meet his needs, make him happy, be who she thinks he needs her to be, rather than who she actually is, which is feminine. Feminine is being, masculine energy is doing. So being in the feminine means you are who you are. You're connected to your core and your authentic core, which is what we're really helping you to do here, is get connected to who you actually are as a woman, because every woman has a feminine core deep inside. And so reconnecting to that and then being able to operate in your world, in your relationships, in your dating with men from that place, where rather than wondering what he's thinking or what he's feeling, you're more concerned with what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And then once you're connected to that, you're feeling your butt on the chair, your feet on the ground, your breath in your body, you're connected to your own beingness as a feminine woman, then you can share that with him. You can talk to him. That's how you would interact with him. Is it doesn't matter if he's introverted or shy. You focus on being your best self, and he is going to be a man and adjust to you. He's going to step up into his king, and he's going to be who you need in that moment. He's going to be your hero, hopefully, meaning when you share your feelings, or when you ask him for advice or ask him for help, or just share, I already said sharing your feelings, or just having a conversation where you are asking him things you're actually authentically interested in, or maybe you don't want to talk that much either. Maybe you're in a mode where you just want to kind of just be with him, or just stand next to him, or just smile at him. And then that's okay. And then let him match you. Let him start to step into his kingly energy and ask you more questions, or help you with your feelings, help you with your request, whatever that might be. And now he's in his masculine, you're in your feminine, and you're in the dance together. And so that's what you want to do with men in general, because here's the other thing. If you're fully in your feminine and a man is, if he is actually guarded, if he's not opening up, if he's not really asking you any questions or taking things to the next level by asking you for a phone number or asking you out, then he may be broken. He may be a broken man. And it's better you find that out sooner rather than later, not by you having to adjust to him and adopt yourself and mold into a pretzel to be who you think he needs you to be, but that you are connected to your authentic feminine core. You're showing up respectfully and vulnerably as a queen, because this is more about your own journey. And then if he's not matching that, if he's not stepping into his masculine, then that's clearly not a good man for you. It's not a right fit. And you don't want to be his mommy. You don't want to be his therapist. You don't want to be his coach and try to convince him or lead him or guide him to become a better man, Like that's his job. He needs to step up and meet you where you're at. If that in your feminine, and that's the law of polarity, by the way, when you are in your feminine, you're going to inspire more masculine energy around you. More men are going to be more masculine. They're going to step up into that healthy masculine. And if they don't, if there's like a ceiling there and he's blocked, then he's broken. And unfortunately, you have to be willing to walk away because those men, it's their own job, it's their own journey to get through that ceiling themselves. You can't help them to be there. All you can do to help him get there is being your most feminine, queenly self, like your name, and he's got to match that or not. So, but you may say it may take some time for that as well. So use what we're teaching you here, do the Magnetic Feminine 90-day challenge that we help you with, and then let's see how things adjust. And the beautiful thing is also is he's either going to step up or some other great man is going to come into your life because of who you're being. And maybe it will be both as well. So great question. And let's see. Oh yeah. So Nikki, hi Nikki, great to have you here. She said, this was beautiful. It reminded me of Dark Side of the Light Chasers and 1 Corinthians 13. Have you ever read that book, Schnuggy, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers? I know
Oh, yeah, of course.
of it, but I never read it.
Yeah, I would say it's my psychology, like my psychological Bible, so to say. And because I think, to me, nobody described the subject better when it comes to shadow work than Debbie Ford did, with a lot of stories, a lot of metaphors. And that's her most popular book, The Dark Side of the Light Chaser.
Yeah. And so I'm going to go ahead and put it on the screen as well because it is such a beautiful verse. Oh, yeah, I think this is it. Corinthians 1:13. As we all have heard at any Christian wedding, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. And of course, there's more to it, such as love never fails. But yeah, so what I love about this verse is that idea of the love is kind. Well, also love is patient and love is kind. It's being patient with the other person and kind to the other person, but it's also being patient and kind with yourself, like loving yourself as well and being patient with your own journey that you're on, which means letting go of judgments, like accepting that you are perfectly imperfect and it's okay. You're on a journey. You are shedding layers of old programming, of masculine energy, of trauma and whatnot that may have happened. So being this also with yourself, that's the next powerful level to take this verse. So not envying others. That's hard to apply to yourself, but letting go of pride that you need to be perfect, that you have to always be achieving things and showing him how great you are and how amazing you are. Well, let him just experience that. Let him just be with that and know that you don't have to be perfect. It's not about that. Not dishonoring yourself, not being self-seeking. We'll say also not necessarily being overly self-seeking, we'll say, and not easily angered and not keeping any records of wrongs. So not keeping any records of wrongs as well with yourself, being able to forgive him as well as forgiving yourself, just as Jesus forgave us. Self-forgiveness is always just as powerful as forgiveness of others. So that's a big part of this process we're talking about today as well, is to forgive yourself for mistakes you have made in the past, things you've done, things you didn't do, and to be able to have that grace for yourself, which is part of your name, Nikki. And so have that grace for yourself, and then also that allows you to have the grace for others. And yeah, there was something else I was going to say with that. Do you want to mention anything else with that, Schnuggy?
No, I mean, the biggest thing is to know that you are everything. You have all the parts inside of you, and all the parts inside of you work together for good, right? That's in Romans. All things work together for good. You could only say all parts work together for good. But they only work together for good, in my opinion, if you actually own it. If you're like, yeah, they all work together for good. They all want the best for me. They go about it in different ways. And then unfortunately, then if you disown it, meaning like you resist it, meaning like you push it away, meaning like you judge it, then it's going to work against you. because then it's going to sabotage you.
Yeah. And the last thing I was going to say on that, I just remembered, was that forgiveness is a decision. It's not necessarily a feeling. So you may not always feel that you want to forgive somebody else or that you want to forgive yourself for something. But at the end of the day, it's really a decision that you make to decide, which means to cut away the old way of doing things, to decide to be done with it, to decide to forgive. You don't have to forget, but you can still forgive, which means you're energetically detaching from that old judgment you had to yourself or that old story you were telling yourself. Just like Bianca said here, I'm afraid I'm not good enough. So having stories of not good enough, like what if you were just to forgive yourself for that? I accept that I've had that story or I've had that fear, and I forgive myself for having that fear. I forgive myself for not being perfect. I forgive myself for making mistakes. I forgive the moments when maybe I did something that was bad, that may be quote unquote not good enough as a judgment. Like I forgive myself for that. And now I embrace a new story that I'm free, or that I can be good enough, or that it's possible for me to be good enough, or that I am good enough. Fully, I'm good enough within myself, within my heart, and to then be able to move forward from that place. So it's powerful. And then Marion said, do you have any videos for women that are just starting to date? Yes, we do, Marion. And actually, pretty much everything we teach you can be applied from the very beginning of meeting a man. Now we're not necessarily teaching in our videos here. We have courses on this in our coaching groups on how to do online dating properly and how to, the first moments of meeting a man, and how to, like, where to meet men, where to go to actually meet them. But the key is, once you're interacting with a man, that's where everything we teach comes into play, which can be from the very first approach that a man, maybe the first message a man sends you online, or your first response, or the first interaction you have at an event that you meet him at, or at church. So it's about the dance of the man, the male and the female, just as God created them, that dance, that beautiful harmony that starts from the beginning. And what we're teaching you here is how to understand yourself and how to understand men better, so that you can succeed with your dating from the very moment. These principles will run through from when you first met a man to when you've been married for 10 years, because they're basic masculine, feminine principles and communication principles, feminine communication, that allows you to have the connection you want at any stage with a man. And then you get to decide, is this man actually right for you? Is he not right for you? What kind of man is he? We use our magnetic feminine 90-day challenge, and you'll be able to discover what kind of man this is and actually build a relationship with him, or realize he's not the right man for you and be able to step away. But it's in your choice now. You should have the choice. You should be in choice, just like the egg that is choosing what sperm to let in. You are choosing that relationship for yourself, rather than having to chase it constantly and feel like you're powerless in your love life. So that's very important as well. And let's see. So we'll answer a couple other questions here when we have time.
I don't know if there's any other questions.
Bianca
comments.
said, what should I do when he does want to video chat, but we will text and send pics? Should I give him some space? Yeah, I mean, if he wants to video chat, I think that's a lot better than just texting or sending pictures. So I'm not sure I understand the question, unless by video chat you mean he wants to, like, have some kind of sexual thing going on, or like a sort of a erotic video chat. I don't know. But if it's just him wanting to connect with you over video, that's better than just texting or sending pictures. You always want to opt for more connection. The best conversations should happen in person or over your phone, and video chat would even be better than just over a phone call. So I think that's great, but we may need some more context for that. And all right, so yeah, that looks like, I think we have to wrap it up anyway. So hope this was helpful. Again, if you want to take this to the next level, make sure to take our free quiz to get a loving, long-term committed relationship with your man, which is where this process really starts, to get you on the right foot, to get the resources you need. Go ahead and click the link in the description or comments below, and we'd love to personalize this for you, for your specific situation, get you some coaching to get on the right track with your guy or with your love life in general. And you can click on our bio, click on the link in the description below, or go to our website, magnetizeyourman.com, to get that right now. So much love, take care, and we look forward to talking to you again very soon. Bye-bye.